Hello, this is the second chapter of a book called The Fourth Wall. The book's first part is a short novel about a character on an afterlife journey. The story is a way of introducing the author's philosophical and theological ideas for your consideration. I hope you will be intrigued. Thank you for listening.
Chapter 2. The Library of Heaven. I was greeted by another angel. Distinguishing them from we humans was easy since they tended to be generally taller and dressed in their own unique angelic attire. This particular angel had a beard and was clad in a cloak with side pockets and a silver belt secured by a brass buckle around his waist. He conducted me into an office space complete with a mahogany desk and a wooden desk chair. Behind the desk, I noticed shelves lined with scrolls, codices, and notebooks. A globe of the earth was also rotating on its base, a captivating item that sparked my curiosity. Above a crackling fireplace, the shelves were adorned with scented candles, and below the hearth sat chairs in pink velvet upholstery. "We share the imagination stream, young man," the angel said, noticing my bewilderment. "Remember, this place cannot be perceived literally. I am as you imagine so that we can share a common experience. All symbol, metaphor, and the shaping of imagination. It is what makes this place amazing for newcomers like you," he added while stoking a pipe. My face gave me away. I would never imagine a pipe smoker in heaven. But that must have been his part of the shared imagination anyway, I reckoned. "Take a look out the window, young man," he directed, nodding toward it. To the left of his desk was a window facing the fireplace. When I peeked out, I was greeted by a snowy mountain scene with mist flowing deep within the valleys, all beneath a bright blue sky, reminiscent of my Tennessee and North Carolina youth. The genteel-looking angel stood admiring the view with me puffing on his pipe. "We experience what we share," he said without glancing back at me. "It has been a while since one of you brought winter here. I am known as Raziel," he said, as he turned back toward his chair. "The critic has tried to use my reputation and legend to distort the grand narrative among the countless ways he tries to divert mankind away from it. He's now making me and my kin out to be aliens. However, I am the Lord's servant, the keeper of the stories." I took a seat on the chair across from him next to the fireplace, which he kindly gestured towards with his hand. "What do you mean by stories?" I inquired. "Everything is story. The ground of being is information, or better, the imagination of God. You, my friend, are story, a narrative. You are not just the sum of your parts, characteristics, or dimensions. You are not just your name or your favorite indulgence. You cannot identify as anything but what your history entails. You are factually a story. Your story is a subplot of the larger one God, the ultimate author wrote upon the creation scroll. As such, you are one of our newest additions to the library. Welcome." "I have no idea what you just said," I responded with a hint of frustration. "Imagine I met you in an elevator and asked who you were. How would you reply?" I told him that I would likely give my name, where I lived generally, or what I did for a living. "Would I know you then?" "I suppose not. You would only know enough to distinguish me from others." He took a casual drag from his pipe, which I still found a bit peculiar. Then he proceeded with the question. "What would be required for me to genuinely understand you, then?" "You'd have to spend time with me getting to know me," I replied. "And discover what?" He leaned forward as if to add emphasis to the question. "You would have to know more about me, your story." "That is correct," he proudly interrupted. "So, you are a story. To know you is to know your story. Your story was the only thing you packed for the trip when you came here." Raziel noticed my confusion. The dog-like tilt of my head and frown gave me away. He adjusted himself in his seat, tucked on his robe, and paused before responding. "Picture yourself crafting a character in a novel and delving so deep that every minuscule detail is included down to the cellular and atomic level. Your storytelling even encompasses the workings of your character's flow of consciousness. Your novel weaves tales within tales, creating layers upon layers of narrative." Moreover, let's imagine this whole process is automated in a way that gives your character agency, allowing the character some control over their story. So, you are talking about a simulation like in the holodeck in Star Trek? I interjected. It never occurred to me that the angels might watch television. Nonetheless, whether he knew about Star Trek or not, he didn't reveal it. Instead, he corrected. Simulation is wrong because it implies that the story is a model or fake reality of something else. This was Plato's mistake. The grand story is not like that. God's creative work is original and makes all things new. You are experiencing the metaphor of this library simply because God knows all and never forgets. He is omniscient. You exist solely because God remembers you, but instead of being stored away among our near-infinite shelves, God has translated you here so that the story continues. I still have trouble understanding. Young man, think of reality as pure thought or ideal rather than concrete, he said as he signaled with a wave. Reality would be pantheistic if not for the fact that the grand artist gives his creation life of its own. The only thing you truly own is your story, in fact. God will someday open the books, and the stories will be read. You will be read. He will be the true critic of the story since he is the only audience, and he will look for the art and beauty within them if any is to be found. This is very deep and philosophical. He chuckled and said, Yes, I suppose it is to you. I stood up and walked back to the window. I required a moment to mentally download all this into my fevered brain. It felt like barely a breath of time had passed since I was absorbed by the light on my deathbed. Yet now, an angelic librarian was informing me that I existed as a tale within an even grander narrative, a metaphysical chronicle of immense significance. A surge of profound possibilities streamed through my thoughts, and I became somewhat philosophical. Are we now unbounded by space and time? Does the foundation of existence possess any tangible foothold? Can reality be delineated from the divine consciousness? What is my current state beyond the familiar narrative I once recognized? From his chair he continued, as I nearly magically recorded his words onto my tablet. Matter, the tangible physical creation you perceived in the grand narrative, is what we call appearance. Appearance is generated by imagination, the flow of instructions that creates the appearance. We can say that this imagination is energy, if you prefer. The transfer of information defines the appearance, and each appearance works with other appearances. It isn't cause and effect. Rather, it is better. Premise and conclusion. The world you knew is a divine calculation, a non-fiction novel. I laughed a little at the contradiction at the end, and Raziel noticed. Tell me what you are thinking, he urged. It seems like we are taking the art and literature metaphor to its limits. I laughed, and he grinned broadly himself, crossing his arms. Indeed, he agreed. Understanding God comes through witnessing his craftsmanship. Such proclaims his magnificence, and the heavens are exhibits for his masterpieces. Keep in mind this location offers an exceptional viewpoint for observing God's artistry. From this vantage point, the divine attendants, his angels, fill the air with harmonious exultation. They dutifully attend and witness the ceaseless generation of books for the library. Here, we reside within the current imagination stream of God's creativity. You are privileged to participate in this stream until we conduct our inventory. Inventory? I asked, that word sticking in my mind. Once more, that topic will arise as our shared story unfolds, he responded. At this moment, let us proceed with our introduction, he remarked, briefly halting as if anticipating a signal, which came with a gentle knock at the door. Come on in, Ariel. He spoke loudly. The door opened, and the apparition of a woman of exceptional fierceness and fantastic beauty stood there. She was angelic, but gentler in a manner than the other angels I had seen. In my brief experience, most angels seemed masculine, but Ariel was different. She was light-complexioned, the color of bronze, and distinctively feminine. Raziel began his introduction of her with a bit of background. The angels of the Lord have a division of labor. I am the keeper of the books. Others deliver messages. And still, others fight against the critic's efforts to pervert the artist's story. Ariel here is a teacher. She guides the angels, and you translated stories into wisdom. Ariel smiled and curtsied coyly. At your service. Raziel continued his praise of his friend. Out in the open, wisdom calls aloud. She raises her voice in the public square. On top of the wall, she cries out. At the city gate, she speaks. So turn your ear toward wisdom and apply your heart to understanding. Listen to her, and you will find the hidden treasure, reverence, and awe in the great artist. For the Lord gives wisdom. From his mouth come knowledge and understanding. He is the shield to those who walk blameless and guards his faithful ones. Ariel, seeming to join in praise of God, said, God has hidden the treasures of his wisdom from the arrogant, who place their faith in their own thoughts and imagination, but he has given it freely to little children. It is the innocent who love knowledge. It is why the critic leads a horde of destruction against them, perverting the little ones. It is why you must write down what you see and hear. The time is near when great darkness will cover the grand story before the end. Human knowledge will reach its zenith, but also pride and confusion. They are so prideful in their wisdom that they become insane, not knowing God's story but thinking they can create their own. The spirit of Bobel is resurrected. They forget God created male and female, preferring to rewrite the grand narrative to suit themselves. As you can imagine, sexual perversion abounds as Sodom is reborn in the hearts of many. In the last days, the critic's story will be in their hearts, and they will proclaim themselves gods. But they will be fools because the critic will be their God. The critic seeks his kingdom of useful idiots. He leads many astray, even those who claim the great name. They have become stupid and continually walk around in a stupor under the influence of their counter-narratives. Blessed are you, however, and those who stay faithful. You will walk here in peace and joy. You will someday see the Lord in the highest heaven and stand before his presence. The angels celebrate every one of his creations that return to innocence. Light filled the room as her speech reached a crescendo. She cast no shadows, as if light swirled around behind our imagination. Then she concluded with a biblical-like benediction. How great is the love of the Father that you are called his children. In the grand story, he has filled you with his Spirit. He is the personal power of imagination. Praise to the Lord of art and beauty. Praise the grand author of the sublime and compelling. Amen. Raziel lifted his hands, enraptured in praise. I was filled, too, and enthusiastically joined his praise. Heaven is saturated with praise and singing. You will hear it constantly should you decide to come here. I heard it from my hospital bed only faintly from a distance, but now I can always listen to it, even as I write. Raziel turned back toward me and walked near the door. He puffed on his pipe before saying, Young man, Ariel will take you on a trip. He picked up a book from the table by the window and handed it to the still glowing angel. Listen to wisdom. She will tell you as much as you can grasp. Write it down. Yes, sir, I replied lightheartedly, yet sensing the seriousness of his tone. I will see you soon, young man, he said as he waved us away.